I thought I'd give an update on the nitrogen deficiency series that we just did. And so I'm sitting just behind the corn, and this stuff is doing absolutely incredible. And so I want to talk a little bit about what I've done to bring this thing back to life. And then I'm going to show an example of corn that's just behind me over here that I didn't do exactly the same thing to, and it's not doing nearly as well. And so I think I've discovered some really interesting things that I wanted to share with you guys. So when we did these videos before, we saw the corn, and I'll put a link to it in the cards above. Here, I'll get above the corn there. The leaves are so big, they're covering my hands. And you can kind of see what these corn looked like before we applied the correction or the amendments to the soil, so you can get a sense of what it looked like before. And I'll see if I can drum up some of that B-roll as well, actually, so that we can put it into this video. As I'm talking, you'll probably be able to see, if I can find the B-roll, you'll be able to see what this corn looked like before we did this stuff here. You saw the soil and how crusted it was and how it was really degraded. And so what we did was we put some of that eco-growth material down. I'm just going to get it for you here. So it's in this little bin right here, and basically it's dehydrated food scraps from eco-growth, and I've got a couple of videos which I'll also put up into the cards there. And so this is whatever kind of food materials they're actually bringing to their facility to dehydrate, and then they typically combust it. And so we've been experimenting with it to see if we can use it as a soil amendment. And so because it's pure food, I only put a really thin layer of it down on the soil. And what happened was we started getting all of this mold or fungi, I'm not sure exactly what it was, growing on the surface. And I know that eco-growth had encouraged some of their other producers of this material to try it as well, and they put down a really large amount of it. And I knew that if we put a large amount of it down, we'd get into trouble because it was so pure, it had so much nutrient in it. So we only did a really thin coating of it. And after that, we put some straw down to protect it from the sun. And then I've also since put down grass clippings, which are not decomposed yet. They probably won't decompose for another, 6 months. They'll be back to soil kind of next spring. And so we're going to keep mulching this corn to continue to build up that sheet mulch. Now, if you look at the straw underneath, it's not even really decomposing that much yet. It's starting to, but it's still largely intact. You can kind of get a sense of that right there. So while it's helping to improve the condition of the soil, it's not what's making this corn look so incredible. Now, the row behind me, and I'm going to change the camera here in a second, looks still kind of sickly. It looks yellow, it's not growing nearly as well, and it had the straw and it had the grass clippings on it, but it didn't have the eco-growth material. And that's the primary difference in this corn and that corn. The species are the same, the soil's the same, the only difference is that it didn't have that eco-growth material. And so I'm really excited about this because I know eco-growth produces an enormous amount of this, and it means that we can start to utilize some of the resources that they're already collecting in an efficient way and put it back onto the ground. Now, one of the next experiments that I want to try with this material, I just got some composting worms, and so we're going to actually try building a worm farm and feeding it to the worms and seeing what happens there. So that'll be one of the next experiments that we run, and we'll continue to inform you as to how we're doing that and what the results are. What's really cool about worm castings is that they're worth so much. They're one of the best fertilizers that you can use for your garden. And so if we can take a waste product, concentrate it, and feed it to something that then turns it into a super valuable resource, you've got a business there. And so now you could technically take one of these eco-growth units, put them anywhere in any city, use it as a primary collection mechanism and a concentrating mechanism, and then couple it in with a worm farm right beside it, and now you've got a really unique business proposition. So let's take a look at the other corn there just to compare it to this, and I'll get some closer shots of this corn as well so that you can get a sense of how green and healthy it looks. So here's that same corn that was looking sickly not very long ago, and now is just looking so good. And let's go and compare it to the corn that's just 2 rows over that didn't get the treatment. So you can see how the leaves are quite a bit more yellow. The corn is a fraction of the size. It's not nearly as tall. It's better than it was, but it's not nearly as good. And even in this row, check this out. This one's even worse. So same thing, we didn't put that eco growth material on there, and it's just not nearly as good. So if you take a look at these 2 clips that are in front of you right now, the clip on the right has the really good corn that had the eco growth material, and the clip on the left has the corn that didn't have the eco growth material. And you can really get a sense that the color, the green, the chlorophyll in the sample that has the additional fertility or eco growth material is super green, whereas the other one still looks yellow and sickly. It's stunted. It was planted on the same day, and so we have a really big difference between the two. So we're going to continue doing samples on this and tests and seeing what happens, and seeing where that can all go. So hopefully you found that interesting. I think we're a little bit still too early to say conclusively kind of how to best use this material. I'm still experimenting with it. But as we uncover new opportunities, I'll make sure that I record them in our YouTube video. If you're interested in finding out more about eco growth, you can check them out in the show notes below. And we'll continue to produce videos about them. I think there's lots more that we can learn from this company and some of the stuff that they do and how they are going to play a role in the new regenerative economy that's emerging right now. But I'll definitely keep you kind of in the loop on our corn, and we can see where that goes. Hopefully we're going to have some delicious corn that we can eat towards the end of the year. Okay, talk soon.